In the summer of 1998, Robert Jarni was a man in demand. Having been a key part of the Croatia side that finished third in the World Cup, the wingback's performances had attracted interest from across Europe. And that's why, in August 1998, when the 29-year-old signed for Coventry City from Real Betis for £2.6 million, it seemed like somewhat of a coup for Gordon Strachan's side. But, just days later, the Croatian was on his way back to Spain. Coventry City had sold him to Real Madrid for nearly £1 million profit. So what made Bobbi Jarni slam the emergency exit button and trade the West Midlands for Spain's capital just days after signing for Coventry? This might not be such a mystery after all now I think about it. Context! After making his debut for Hajduk Split in 1986, Robert Jarni would go on to build quite the CV for himself, or whatever footballers use instead of LinkedIn. Jarni would have stints at Bari, Torino, Juventus, where he won both Serie A and Coppa Italia, before landing in Seville in the summer of 1995, signing for Real Betis. Over the course of 3 seasons, Robert Jarni would become a key player for Betis, making 119 appearances for the Spanish side in all competitions, starting the vast majority of them, and becoming somewhat of a cult figure. Oh! No, behave, Robert. By the end of the 97-98 season, the Croatian was in great form heading into the World Cup in France. But this is where his relationship with Real Betis would begin to drift somewhat. After being subbed off with an injury in Betis' 3-1 win against Barcelona on the 3rd of May 1998, Jarni would miss the final 2 games of the season against Racing Santander and Real Madrid. However, the Real Betis brass reportedly suspected something was really fishy with Robert's injury, and that he was making a real meal out of it to save himself for the World Cup. To make Jarni's position at the club even more delicate, Betis were on the brink of breaking the world transfer record to sign Denilson, and with Jarni entering the final year on his contract, the club couldn't afford to lose him on a free. A solid performance over the summer would surely mean Betis could cash in on their Croatian asset. Sure enough, Robert Jarni would be fit in time for Croatia's first ever World Cup match against Jamaica on the 14th of June 1998. And you'd go on to play every minute of Croatia's incredible Davor Suker-powered World Cup run, including their 3-0 win against Germany in the quarterfinals, where he scored this absolute belter. Croatia finished third at the 98 World Cup, and with Jarni's performances well and truly putting himself in the metaphorical shop window, clubs from Germany, Scotland and England came a-knocking on Real Betis' door, with the man at the very front of the queue being Coventry's chairman, Brian Richardson. After reports linking Jarni to the likes of Borussia Dortmund, Fenerbahce, Celtic and Rangers, the Daily Mirror revealed on Saturday the 25th of July 1998 that Coventry had emerged as the frontrunners to sign the Croatian in a deal worth £2.4 million, with chairman Brian Richardson basically showing all his cards at once by saying, "We are very close to completing the transfer of a player who will bring a lot of extra excitement to this club. The fans will love him." Given that Coventry's signings up until then had been Jongai Valem and Paul Hall, the bar for excitement wasn't exactly high. 3 days later, on Tuesday the 28th, the Daily Express reported that personal terms had been agreed between Jarni and Coventry, and that Big Brian was on his way to Seville, presumably with a suitcase full of cash, to hash out a deal. After a week of soaking up the Andalusian sun, Mr. Richardson remembered he had a transfer deal to wrap up, but Betis weren't budging. A £2.5 million offer was rejected by the club, and it looked like the transfer could be dead in the water. "They are asking for a ridiculous amount," said Coventry's chairman. "Robert Jarni has said Coventry is the only club he wants to come to." Oh, don't jinx things, Brian. By Saturday, the media had upgraded the transfer from dead to very much alive. Coventry had got their man. Robert Jarni signed from Real Betis for £2.6 million, and Coventry's manager, Gordon Strachan, was ecstatic. He is quietly effective, he's not flash, and he gets on with it. Jesus Christ, Gordon, show a little f***ing enthusiasm. At least Jarni seemed keen. He even popped up at Highfield Road for Coventry's pre-season friendly against Espanyol, dressed like a mildly successful middle manager at a mortgage broker. After the game, Coventry's new signing stated, "I am very pleased to be at Coventry. I think they're a team with great potential, and I can't wait to play." Which may be the most generic answer I've ever heard to any question ever, but sure. Bobbi couldn't have been that pleased, however, as shit was about to hit the proverbial fan. Just 2 days after Coventry's 1-1 pre-season friendly with Espanyol, things took a rather unexpected turn with the Croatians' move to the West Midlands. Hands off, Jarni! Oh, that's not a comma. Hands off, Jarni! Real Madrid were attempting to hijack the transfer from underneath Coventry's nose. The thing was, it wasn't exactly clear who they should be negotiating with. "We have a 6-page legal document which has been stamped, signed and sealed," said Brian Richardson. "It is a binding agreement and means all transfer legislation now belongs to Coventry City. Robert has made it clear. He wants to come here." The same day, Robert would make it clear he didn't want to go there. A football career is very short, and by going to Real, I'll have more chance to win things than Coventry. And just to make things even worse for Coventry, one of their new signings was constipated. Suffice to say, the whole thing was a right kerfuffle. Coventry claimed they had completed all the paperwork with Betis to effectively own the Croatian, including a pre-agreement with the player himself. But Jarni claimed he hadn't signed personal terms. And with Coventry yet to have a work permit secured for the player, Robert was stuck in a weird footballing subspace that existed somewhere between the space-time continuums of Coventry and Seville, accessible only by reversing the polarity on the warp drive or whatever bollocks they do in Next Gen. Not wanting to engage in Star Trek quantum physics, or a lengthy legal dispute, Real Madrid decided to negotiate with Coventry directly. "He is the best left-sided player in Europe, and we certainly didn't buy him just to sell him." Yeah, about that, Brian. Oh. So, after just 4 days, it looked as though Coventry's love affair with Robert Jarni was over. "Real Madrid have made us an offer and we've accepted," said Brian Richardson. And true enough, 6 days later, the Spanish side would unveil Robert Jarni as a Real Madrid player. Madrid reportedly paid Coventry in and around £3.4 million, meaning the Sky Blues netted a tidy £800,000 profit for a player who never kicked a ball for them, which was a fair chunk of change back in 1998. That kind of money got you 20 Jimmy Bullards, or a third of a Nobby Solano. Leading us to the big question. Would you rather fight 20 duck-sized Jimmy Bullards? Wrong script. What led to Robert Jarni's change of heart? If Real Madrid were so interested in him, why did they wait until so late in the game to make an offer? And who really did blow up Mr. McMahon's limousine? Now, there were reports that earlier on in the summer, Real Madrid had made inquiries with Betis about Jarni's availability. However, Real Betis president, Manuel Ruiz de la Pera, was reluctant to sell the Croatian to another Spanish club. So, instead, Real Madrid approached a third party, Coventry, to purchase the player before selling him back to Real Madrid with a finder's fee, of course. As much as I love a conspiracy, I find this a little far-fetched. There's probably some truth in Betis not wanting to sell to Madrid, but I can't see the head honchos of both Coventry and Real Madrid putting on a big show in the media just to throw people off the scent. And even if you were to believe that, why on earth would Real Madrid work with Coventry of all teams? It's all very random. It is possible that Jarni himself and Real were in cahoots all along given the rapid U-turn, and that Coventry were just an unfortunate participant in this charade. But I don't really buy that either. According to Richardson, Gordon Strachan and Robert Jarni had built up a relationship for months before the move was finalised. Why would Jarni string them along for so long and go through the effort of wearing his nice suit for a pre-season friendly? Which takes us to the question we should have been asking all along. Madrid or Coventry? Let's face it, even the most honest player would have their loyalties tested as soon as Real Madrid swooped in, particularly for someone of Jarni's vintage. At 29, the Croatian probably knew a move to someone as big as Real Madrid wouldn't come around again. I really don't blame the fella. There's also the small matter of relocating with family as well. Uprooting from Seville to Madrid is bound to be a tad more attractive than Seville to the West Midlands. Then again, there's 2 Brewers Fairs in nearby Rugby and Hinckley, and Madrid hasn't got any from what I can tell. We found out on the Saturday night there was a problem, said Brian Richardson. Lorenzo Sanz, Real Madrid's president at the time, rang his wife, Jarni's not his, telling her that she didn't need to go to England. God forbid. I wouldn't say it was my wife's decision, but it was a family decision, Jarni would later explain. I was honest about it, and when I talked to Strachan, he understood. Moments before Gordon presumably punched a hole in the wall. So, how would Robert Jarni and family get on at Madrid? Not great really. Despite a strong start and establishing himself as a regular at Real Madrid for the first half of the 98-99 season, Jarni found himself increasingly on the periphery in the new year, managing only 500-odd minutes in the second half of Real Madrid's La Liga campaign. By the end of the season, Robert Jarni was surplus to requirements and shipped off on a free transfer to play for Las Palmas in the Spanish second tier the following season. As for Coventry City, they splashed the cash from Jarni's balmy transfer on Mark Edworthy and Steve Froggatt, the latter of which would unfortunately have their career cut short due to injury after a horror tackle. That's gonna hurt. Ultimately, Robert Jarni remains the greatest Coventry player to never put on a sky blue shirt, a phantom legend of Highfield Road who arrived and left in the blink of an eye without even getting a chance to visit the Transport Museum. The whole saga was the footballing equivalent of going on a first date with someone, only for a much more charismatic, attractive and all-round better person than you to whisk them away before you've even had a chance to dig into your starters. At least in Coventry's case, Real Madrid were kind enough to pick up the bill.